What's going on, everybody? Welcome to an extremely controversial episode of Fishing Grubs. If you're a part of the big swimbait community and you enjoy this video, let me know in the comments below what your feelings are in this whole thing. And if you disliked it, do me a favor, hit the dislike button and let me know in the comments below what you think and why you don't like what I have to say. All right, folks, I came here the other day and I recorded this entire episode. I went home and I tried to pull it off my phone. Yeah, didn't work. Apparently, long-ass videos on your phone don't convert over to your computer very well. So the first things we're gonna talk about are the things that we actually really enjoy about big swim baiting. I really wanna hit home the reasons why I throw big baits in the frickin' first place, and why you should as well if it's something that interests you. Now, if it's not something that interests you, you don't even need to do it. You don't even need to watch this video. This video is for those of you that are either a part of the community or looking to be a part of it, looking to go out there and throw those big baits to catch big fish. So if you're new here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell as well, because we got a few other videos like this coming out. Not controversial, but videos about big swim baiting. And the next one will be all about how and why we throw those big baits at night, because that's usually when I throw them. Actually, a day like today is kind of the perfect day. It's not super windy, it is a little bit windy. There's a little ripple, but it's overcast skies. And it's fall and these bass are feeding. So I love throwing those big baits on days like today. First off, one of the most important things about throwing big swim baits is their draw power. These big baits draw in big fish. They're noisy. Most of them have a nice knock. A lot of them have rattles inside of them, and their profile is big. So when a bass is hungry and it sees this big bait floating on the top of the water or under the water, depending on what you're throwing, it looks like an easy, big, fulfilling meal. It's not gonna have to expend a ton of energy to get a giant meal. And that is the key to big swim bait fishing, is that these big fish, they don't wanna frickin' fight around all day long, swimming around, especially largemouth. They don't want to move around all day long looking for tiny things to eat. I once caught a 6-pound bass on my Spro Rat at 12:30 at night that had 2 giant golden shiners in his throat. And that to me just told me, like, this fish is only crushing big baits right now. He hit my Spro Rat, and not only did he hit it, but he choked it, and he had 2 golden shiners that were like gigantic. The next thing I love about big bait fishing is the adrenaline rush I get when I'm out there and I hook into a fish. I don't care if it's a small one or a big one. Half the time you don't know right away. You just get jacked up. If I'm out there throwing a Senko and I hook into a little fish, I know it's a little fish. The adrenaline rush, not so much there. It's just like a reel in, oh sweet, toss it back. With throwing big baits, especially the topwater ones, you get huge explosions and it freaking makes my heart go crazy. And I absolutely love it. The adrenaline rush I get is second to none, especially when I'm out there night fishing, because I'm only using my hearing. I usually don't even see the explosion. I throw my bait out and I slowly, and I can hear it usually. And when that freaking fish hits and I set the hook, I don't care if it's a 2-pounder or a 5-pounder, my whole body is shaking, and I absolutely love it. I live for that. It's freaking incredible. And that's, you know, those two things, the draw power for the big fish and the adrenaline rush I get when I'm fishing these big baits and they hit, those are the reasons why I throw big baits. The other cool thing that I like about these big baits is that there's many different styles. If you're a topwater fan, there's tons of topwater wake baits. You can use those big giant ploppers. You know, like any of these big baits that are floating on the top of the water, when they get hit, you get that same feeling as as if you're throwing a frog in the pads, which obviously I love to do as well. Then there's, those baits that you fish on the bottom, like the burrito that I got hit on the other day for the first time, fishing in about 25 foot of water dragging up into 9 foot of water, and it got creamed by a big bass. That feeling was incredible. So all of you jig throwers, Ned rig throwers, people that like to throw those baits and fish the bottom, there's a lot of big baits out there that you can use to do the exact same thing. Same with the middle of the water column, and those people that like to throw like jerk baits and stuff. You could be throwing, you know, an S-waver or a depths, and you know, those glide baits are almost just like jerk bait fishing. You know, almost the same cadence, if you will. And that's gonna be in the middle of the water column, and you're gonna love it. There's baits out there like the Clash that will go down deep and are just like a crankbait. They act just like a crankbait. There's others that are crank downs that go 2 foot under the water that act like a shallow diving crankbait. You know, so these baits are freaking versatile, and you can basically take like, hey, what would I be throwing today in these conditions and apply them to the big baits. And you know, that's another thing that I just love about big bait fishing, is that there's such a wide variety of these big baits that you can really cover anything that you normally like to do. I also really enjoy some of the bait makers out there. They're super humble. They're willing to give you the shirt off their back. They'll tell you how to fish their bait. They'll tell you, you know, if you break hooks, you reach out to them, they're gonna tell you exactly what hooks to go get and put on your baits. If you catch a big fish on them, they'll repost your catch or comment on your catch. These guys are freaking awesome. And the cool part about it is it's not like big company stuff. Like, these guys are literally in their homes or in their warehouse making these themselves. This one person, maybe two, going in on a bait and making these. It's not like mass-produced stuff. Now, there are some mass-produced big baits out there. I know Savage Gear makes a bunch of big baits that are definitely mass-produced. The Spro Rat is definitely mass-produced, but guess what? Bill Simmental, the creator of the Rat, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever had the pleasure to talk to. I talked to him on the phone a couple times, and this dude, I mean, he's a real dude, and he really cares about what he's doing and what that rat does. And he will definitely be there for anyone that's out there grinding with that bait. I mean, that dude, it's for real. Like, some of these guys that create these big baits are just some of the nicest dudes on the planet. But there's also the opposite, and we'll get into that in a little bit. You know, you got your Spro Rat, which is awesome. It's an entry-level big bait. You also got the regular Spro. If you're out there fishing open water, it doesn't have a bill on it. You know, if you're fishing close to shore and fishing laydowns and rocks and stuff like that, I would throw something with a bill. And if you're out in the open, you should be throwing just the BBZ 50. Those big, you know, trout looking swim baits that don't have a bill. They're phenomenal. Then you got the bull shad. Mike Bucca is a heck of a human being. Such a good dude. Super supportive of what everybody's doing out there. He's just a great guy. You got guys like Mike Shaw that make the MS Slammer. You catch a fish on his bait, he gets pumped. You got guys like Carp Hugger. I caught 2 fish on the burrito since I've got it. I don't throw it a ton. I bought it for the fall fishing, for fishing bottom once those fish go deeper, because you know me, I'm usually a top water guy. That's pretty much all I try and throw most of the time. But I'm trying to change it up. And I catch a fish on that, and the dude is pumped, and he comments and interacts with me and the people that are commenting on my photos and my videos. That's the kind of community with the big bait fishing that I love. So let's get into the bad. Now, the number one bad thing about big bait fishing has got to be, hands down, the price. When you first get into it, it is expensive. It's not like you're going out and you're buying a $50 rod and reel combo and throwing, you know, a $2, $3 bait. When you first get into it, you can start off slow. You can get yourself an ugly stick like my boy Steve Tost, who still throws big baits on his ugly stick because he's a madman. But when you really get into it, you're gonna go out, you're gonna buy a $100 rod, you're gonna buy a $200 reel, or maybe a $150 reel, because you need something that's gonna be able to hold a lot of line. You need something that's going to be able to handle the big baits when it comes to the rod and the reel. You don't wanna cheap out, because you might toss a big bait right off into a tree, or you know, you might lose a big fish on your big bait because you just weren't prepared, or you're just going to destroy the rod and reel you're throwing stuff on, which happened to me. When I first bought my first swim bait rod, it wasn't a swim bait rod, it was a frog rod. It was my fishing with flare frog rod, and within the first year, almost all of my eyelets were falling out because I just was tossing big baits with it all the time. Now, I bought my swim bait reel at the same time, and that thing has lasted. It is a beast, the Shimano Castic, and it's old. I love it. But again, it was like 140 bucks for that reel. And the rod I got was 100 bucks too. I should have just gotten a regular old swim bait rod, but I was dumb and I was first getting into it. One of the other things that isn't the greatest about big bait fishing is when you go out and you grind all frickin' night, all frickin' day, you go out 2 or 3 days in a row, you can feel it because you're throwing big, heavy baits on a big, heavy setup. And after a little while, I mean, I know for me, because I'm a tiny dude, my arms can feel it. My shoulders definitely feel it. And you know, it's not the best. It's tough. It's a grind, but it pays off. So it's not like super bad. It's just, you got to be prepared that when you go out for 8 to 10 hours, 2 nights in a row, because it's the full moon, you're gonna be feeling it the next day. Now, speaking of the grind can be super, super tough. You can go out 2 days in a row and not catch a single fish. If you stay dedicated to those big baits, if you switch up to a frickin' wacky rig Senko, you're probably gonna catch a bunch of fish. Like, if, say you do it in your last hour. But if you stick to the grind, if you just keep throwing those big baits and you stick to that grind, it's tough. But guess what? In the end, it pays off. So this isn't like a super bad thing or anything. This is just one of those bad things. This isn't horrible. This is just the grind. This is what swim baiting is all about. This is why a lot of these guys are so diehard and look down upon others, because they go out and they grind so hard for one fish. You shouldn't be down on others for anything. I don't care how hard you grind. That's your choice to grind with big baits. It's not everybody's. So that's something we're gonna get into in a minute. But that grind is real. When you really stay dedicated and you want to go out and catch big fish on these big baits, be prepared to get skunked. Be prepared to catch one fish in an outing. But when you catch that one fish, be stoked for it, because that's what it's all about. One of the other bad things you got to worry about when you're first getting into big swim baiting is the fact that there's a lot of big baits out there that are cheaply made and stuff you shouldn't even bother with. You know, those Amazon swim baits, Chinese made swim bait, like I try to stick away from those baits. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to catch you fish, but you got cheap hooks on them. They might not swim well. They might not catch fish. What I like to recommend is you go out and you get yourself some bigger baits that actually have, you know, some history to them. I highly recommend, if you're going out and getting your first wake bait, to buy the Spro Rat. If you have a little more money and you're willing to, you know, go out and learn on a little bit more expensive bait, go out and get the Buka Bullshad, or go get yourself a smaller slammer, because these baits frickin' work. They're made by people that know what the heck they're doing, including that Spro Rat. That Spro Rat, by the way, I don't know if any of you know this, but the inside of that rat is wood. The outside is plastic. They have a rattle in it. It knocks like you wouldn't believe. The tail's a huge draw. Even of the smaller fish, they come up and nail that bait. I've caught a bunch of 2-pounders on that rat. Like, it's crazy. It gets you numbers for a big bait because of that tail, I say. And when you're looking at that tail, I'll look at 2 colors. I'll look at the white and the chartreuse. If I'm in clear water, I'm using white. If I'm in dirty water or it's nighttime, I'm throwing chartreuse all day. So here's where we're gonna get into the controversial side of things. This is where we're gonna get into the ugly side of swim bait fishing. So we've gone over the good, we've gone over the bad, and what we have left is the ugly, and there's quite a bit of it. So if you're just getting into this game, what I want you to do is take my words, digest them, do what you do with it. I wouldn't not throw big baits if it's something that interests you. I would just try and stay away from the garbage that's out there. And there is quite a bit of it. The first thing is first. If you're out there and you're just throwing big baits for the first time, you know, and you are sad that you're not catching fish and you go and you throw some Senkos around, or, you know, throw some other baits too, and you catch some other fish, don't let these swim bait snobs take you down. You know, I understand the grind is real, and if you want to just catch a fish before you go home, by all means do it. Do you. Don't listen to anybody else. Do what's right for you. Some of these guys, they push their weight around like you wouldn't believe. It's obnoxious. These people out there that think they're the fucking bee's knees just because they go out and throw big baits. Listen, bud, when you think you're the best, you're the worst. You're automatically held in the category of giant piece of trash, at least in my book. I don't care who you are. If you think you're better than everyone else just because you're doing things differently than everybody else, you're garbage. Now, if you think you have something to teach other people because you do things a little bit differently than everybody else, that's awesome. And if you can do that in a way that's not degrading and doesn't make people feel little, that's awesome. That's what you should be doing. Just because you throw big baits doesn't make you the greatest fisherman that ever lived. In fact, most tournament fishermen that are catching way bigger fish than you all the time are not throwing big baits. Now keep in mind, folks, this isn't everybody out there. There's a lot of people that throw big baits that understand where you're coming from and where you're starting, and they want to take you and elevate you and bring you to a level that is above what you were used to, especially when it comes to throwing big baits, because there's a lot of different techniques. There's a lot of different things you're going to learn about fish. It's crazy. It's wicked cool. But those guys that freaking think they're better than you just because they've been throwing big baits for 4 or 5 years and know more than you, they're trash. If you can learn a couple things from these people, go ahead and do it, but don't associate with them. There's no need to feed into their garbage. If they're giving you shit because you are throwing a $75 bait and you think it's expensive, and they think you're garbage because they're throwing a $200 bait, fuck them. They mean nothing. They're the type of people we're talking about right now. They are the ugly part of swim baiting. So don't take any mind to it. Just go about your business, and again, just do you. Do what's right for you. Do what you feel comfortable with. Don't let other dickheads dictate how you feel about yourself and what you're doing on the water. Now, when I first got into big swim baiting, I noticed there were some baits out there that you could only get if the bait maker liked you or thought you were cool. And at first I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, like, here's this guy, he's only making a bait for like a select group of people, and they're cool people. They go out and they catch big fish. Garbage. It's fucking garbage, if you ask me. Now that I've been around the scene for enough time, I've seen what that creates in the group of people that it draws in. And it's those people that think they're better than all of you just because they got a fucking bait that's rare. How does that make you cooler than anyone? It doesn't, in my opinion. It just tells me that you think you're the shit. It's these people that go out and they flex because they have big baits that not many people do. They're garbage. They're garbage humans. It's freaking obnoxious. It needs to stop. You got these bait makers out there that hand select, like, oh, this person is gonna get my bait, this person is gonna get my bait. And then when you ask them, hey man, can I get on the list to get one of those baits? They go, oh, there is no list. Fuck you. I'm sick and tired of this garbage. If you're making baits for people to throw and people to get to know, you should be making them for everybody, or not at all. Just go home. Like, go fuck yourself. I'm sick and tired of it. I really am. You know, I know there's a couple bait makers out there that do that are pretty nice guys, but the community that they draw in are garbage. And I know there's also ones out there that suck. These guys that think they're the coolest shit and their baits are the coolest shit, they can charge $200 to $500 for a fucking swim bait. Fished yourself. It looks like an MS Slammer, bro. It's the same fucking thing, and it draws up the same fucking fish. Fished yourself. That's what I have to say. Speaking of those baits, that community that comes along with the one bait maker that I really despise the most, and I don't even know what the guy looks like, nor do I give a shit. They got this like little Facebook group all for just them, and these people just think they're so much cooler and so much better than everybody else just because they're holding a fucking wooden bait that this dude made. Makes no sense to me. You're not cool. And if you think you're cool because of it, you're definitely not cool. At least in my eyes, and most people that actually know what's going on in the world. Like the real people, not the superficial phonies and the fakes. So these people, right, not only do they have their little group off to the side where they do all their, oh, we're so much better than everybody else posts, they actually had a group on Facebook that I've seen with my eyes via some text from a friend, because I'm blocked from it. I looked for it, I searched for it high and low. I bet if I created a fake Facebook account, I might be able to find it, or maybe it was taken down so far. But this group was called Todd Grubb Boner Choker. Here's a picture of it. Now, in this group, these fucking cronies are literally just there to make fun of other people. Mostly a couple select people that they just think are not cool because they are so cool. And they just go on there and they laugh at them and make fun of them and create memes about them. These people are the garbage of the garbage. Like if a garbage can was to consume things and then put garbage out, that's the garbage they are. These people, and there's some big names in there. There's actually a couple people I confronted. One of the dudes I actually really enjoy, and I'm like, why are you even a part of this? He's like, oh, it's funny. I'm like, it's not. It's not funny at all. It's garbage. This whole group of cronies are literally the trash of the trash of the trash. Don't associate with these people unless you think it's funny to make fun of other people for doing what they love to do, which is go out and fish, catch big fish. Some of us not just on big baits. Now, I didn't see anything on the page that was about me. The only thing I saw that was about me was the title. But some of these freaking memes and some of these posts about a couple humans, it's sad to me. It's sad that you would take the time out of your day to give somebody else shit. Why don't you worry about your fucking self first? Because obviously you got some issues going on. And that's literally the ugliest thing I've seen in the big swimbait community. And I know some of these big names, maybe even some of the people that head the swimbait universe are a part of it. And, I talked to them because I wanted to make a post about it back in the day. I even created my own meme. And I was told not to do that. I was told that it would be too controversial and they wouldn't really want it on their page. But I know it's because they're probably a part of it. I know that one of them at least is a part of the community of these, oh, we're so much better than you guys that are throwing this one specific handmade bait from this one specific bait maker who hand selects who gets them. If you're far enough up this dude's ass, you can actually get one of these baits. If you're on your knees enough, you can get one of these baits. And to me, you can send me one. Any of you guys, if you have one of these, Pats, whatever the fucks, you can go ahead and send me one. It'll be great, because you know what I'll do with it? I'll put it in a damn trash compactor after I'm done lighting it on fire and pissing on it. I might not piss on it, that's kind of gross, but I'll definitely light it on fire for you and put it in the trash, and I'll videotape the whole thing, and we'll put it up. Pat's perch lit on fire and then thrown into a trash compactor. I'll actually pay for it if you want. I'll pay $100 and $200 for one of these garbage baits just so I can destroy it and prove to you guys how much these baits are trash. I don't care. All these baits catch fish, right? Anything that freaking moves it has treble hooks in it in the top of the water, they're gonna catch fish, all right? And they're gonna catch big ones too. That MS Slammer will catch you giants. The Buka Bullshat will catch you giants. I've proven it. I've shown that there's proof. These bass are gonna hit anything that moves because they're starving and they want those big baits. There's a whole science behind it. But just because you make a bait that works doesn't make you the best bait maker in the world. especially if you're just gonna hand select the cronies and assholes that get to throw this bait. Now, don't get me wrong. I know people that own these baits that are not pieces of shit. In fact, I love some of the guys that have these baits. That's not the point here. The point is that a lot of these guys have these baits and think they're better than all of you just because they have a goddamn piece of wood that floats that has hooks in it. And it's garbage. I want nothing to do with it. And I also want nothing to do with the Swimbait universe community. I'm done there. I got banned from posting from there last week because some dude was giving me shit for throwing my $75 Swimbait out into the deep and then going to get it and calling it expensive. Because guess what? To me, 75 bucks is a lot of freaking money because I'm broke as a joke. And that bait meant a lot to me. It was expensive in more ways than one. Not only did it cost me a bunch of money, but I had a lot of memories on that bait. And I have a lot of memories to be made on that bait. I love that damn bait. And to me, it's expensive. It's actually priceless. 75 bucks means nothing. And you got people out there that think they're better than you, telling you, oh, that's not expensive. Nice job spamming the spam. Dude, you're spamming my post. You're a garbage human. Garbage. You are like the worst of the worst. This dude wouldn't quit. He had to have the last word, which to me was very funny because he just kept getting like worse and worse. His comebacks were absolutely horrendous. My favorite was when I told him sarcastically that he must have been the cool kid in school, and immediately after he responded, well, you must have eaten lunch alone in school. And I was like, really good comeback, bro. You just used the exact comeback I had. And he was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, okay, why don't you go boop some crayons, bro? Then another guy laughed at the fact that I told him to boof crayons, and boy, did things get heated. I guess I'm a cuck boy now. Probably told me that about 100 times. These people are trash. Trash humans. Trash. Because they think they're better than you. Because they're tossing baits that you don't have. Garbage. And from what I understand, this kid lies about the size of fish he catches. He'll catch a 3-pounder and call it a 4.5. Garbage, trash. Take the trash out. I don't want to be a part of it. I really don't. If you are one of these people, please unsubscribe to my channel. I don't want you to even watch my videos. I don't care about what you are doing with your better than everyone baits. I don't. Get lost. Also, one of the ugly things out there, don't be buying baits from people that don't have any credibility. Do yourself a favor and get these big baits off of a web page that sells them, or if a person on a big bait page has a lot of credibility, you can trust them. You can buy a bait off them and trust that they're actually going to get shipped to you. But I've seen a few things where people have been posting like, oh, I spent this money and I never got my bait. Well, watch out for that. That's pretty ugly as well. But nothing is as ugly as the people that think they're better than you because they have a bait you don't have. I'm gonna end this on a good note, folks, and I'm gonna say one more time that I love throwing these big baits, especially at night, especially during the full moon or the big moon phases. You get yourself a wake bait, if you like topwater, and go out at night and fish all damn night. It's just like the daytime. The fish turn on and off, so dedicate an entire night to it and tell me what you think. It is awesome. The adrenaline rush, the draw power of these baits, it is phenomenal. And you will absolutely fall in love. But do me another huge favor and don't get caught up in the garbage and the bullshit. Don't get caught up in the drama because it'll just turn you off from throwing these big baits. I actually almost just stopped throwing big swim baits because I didn't enjoy the community feeling it. When I first got into it and I had questions and a lot of people were helping me out, it was awesome. But then I stopped asking questions because I felt like I knew, what I was doing, and I went about my business, and I didn't post a lot on the page because normally I just post when my video's done. I don't like to post pictures and then post the pictures and the video together later because it doesn't get any interaction. And then these people just fucking call me a spammer and don't think I'm throwing big baits, and they're garbage, I was out in the Midwest all summer fishing slop. That's why I fished a frog all damn year. I barely threw big baits because I wasn't fishing in places that you would want to throw big baits in, because all my treble hooks would just get caught up. In fact, I did throw a lot of big baits when I was in the river, and I just didn't get hit, so I didn't post anything. But again, if this is something that interests you, do it, because it's freaking fun and it freaking works. Just stay away from the garbage, stay away from the bullshit. And if anyone's trying to bring you down for the way you're going about things, tell them to get lost, ignore them, move on, and continue doing what works for you and what you're comfortable with. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Fishing Grubs. Sorry for being such a Debbie. This had to be said. I wanted to get this out there. I wanted to get it out there last winter when the Todd Grubb boner poker. I wanted to get it out last winter when the Todd Grubb boner choker page came to my realization, and I got to actually see what the hell some of these people were actually doing. And behind people's backs. This isn't like they were putting it out there for me to see or for this other kid to see. They're literally just doing it behind people's backs because they're freaking garbage humans. So I had to get it out there. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Remember, big swim baiting at night coming out real soon, and I just posted that cast to catch on the burrito, so if you haven't seen that, we'll leave that linked at the end. Fish on!